Thomas and Friends, or to be more specific, the Railway series, turns 80 this year. And Takara Tomy celebrated by making this beautiful Playrail toy based off of the Railway series art. And I was lucky enough to get my hands on said toy, as well as a few other Playrail items. And how do I plan to celebrate Thomas's 80th anniversary now that I have this special gem of a toy? Well, that's simple. I grab it, and then throw it into the middle of a dinosaur-infested island. Today, I'm going to be pitting my two favorite franchises against each other to see which one is more powerful than the other. This is Thomas versus Jurassic World. Now, you're probably already thinking, this is a pretty stupid contest. I mean, dinosaurs stomped Thomas the Tank Engine, no question, right? Wrong. You see, Thomas may be a silly talking train show for babies, but he's still a train. And I know this toy really isn't doing the size scaling any favors, but real-life trains are huge. And guess what? Thomas is based on a real-life train. The LB and SCR E2 class tank locomotive weighed 52 long tons. That's heavier than at least 5 Jurassic Park T-Rexes.
You're not a big engine.
Yes, I am. No, you're not.
So Thomas could easily plow through any dinosaur that stood in his way. But it wouldn't be much of a video if I just said Thomas stomps dinosaurs and then called it a day. We're gonna be testing Thomas's abilities against every dinosaur of every size. Or at least all the ones I can remember. And finding out which of these beasts are best equipped at defeating our favorite blue tank engine. But how does one defeat Thomas the Tank Engine, you might ask? Well, I've created a simple point system to find this out. If Thomas's driver and firemen are eaten, that's a point. If they cause a derailment, that's a point. If they actually manage to dismantle Thomas to the point where he's inoperable, then that's a point. And if the dinosaur can achieve this while Thomas is in motion, then those points are doubled. Unfortunately for the dinosaurs, it is not as simple as ripping off Thomas's face. The train's faces are on something called the smoke box door. And in real life, ripping off that door doesn't actually stop the engine from working. But if we want the logic in this video to also apply to real-life trains, then, ripping off the face is not an effective way of killing the engine. No easy outs for the dinosaurs this time. But enough stalling. Let's have Thomas face off against his first set of opponents. With the exception of one, every dinosaur in this tier is smaller than my cat, so there's no chance of any of these dinosaurs even being able to put a dent into Thomas. But surely a few of them can kill the drivers, right? Well, yes, although most of them, no. So they obviously can't enter while he's in motion, but even while he's stationary, he would need to be at a platform for them to be able to enter the cab. And when they do get to the entrance of the cab, now they have to deal with Fireman Frank's shovel, because the fireman always has a shovel on hand as he has to scoop coal into the firebox. So I don't think Oviraptor, Microceratus, or even the shovel lizard himself is a match for the shovel. A pack of Moros Intrepidus and Compies might be able to bypass the shovel, one or two might get executed, but due to their superior agility, they'll be able to take advantage of the small space inside the cab and, basically make do of the driver and fireman. It's circumstantial, but I'm gonna give Moros Intrepidus and Compsognathus 1 point each. However, there is one dinosaur in this tier that deserves 2 points, and it's not even a dinosaur. Remember that one exception I mentioned earlier? It's the Dimorphodon. This guy is quite big in Jurassic canon, and if a Pteranodon can snipe Ben out of a moving monorail, then a Dimorphodon can surely do the same thing on a much slower moving engine, and one that doesn't have glass in the way of the entrances. Therefore, a Dimorphodon could swoop in, knock out both driver and firemen, and potentially kill them. And considering these guys come in flocks, then it's lights out guaranteed. And since they can do this while Thomas is in motion, that's 2 points for the Dimorphodon. However, Thomas is still yet to take any damage from the dinosaurs, and that's probably going to remain unchanged as he now has to face off against These are the human-sized dinosaurs. Raptors, dillos, pachyes, and anything else in between. Since herbivores love running into things, then I can imagine a pachy could definitely give Thomas a small dent. And a raptor could potentially scratch his paint, but nail scratching against metal? Ugh, the sound alone will make everyone lose. But every dinosaur in this tier can at least get 1 point, as all of them have the potential to kill Thomas's crew. Without the station platform, all of these dinosaurs are capable of jumping into the cab, and are potentially sturdy enough to stand up to the shovel. I think a pachy and a stiggy would probably benefit a lot more on the platform, because that would give them a little more energy to just get a running start and just ram whoever's inside. Without it, they have to jump onto the platform and then start attacking, which is a lot more risky. The dillo doesn't even have to worry about the shovel, as it's the only dinosaur with a ranged attack, able to spit out a projectile that can just blind the crew. And while they're distracted by the goop on their face, the Dilophosaurus can seize the opportunity and jump in. Unfortunately, both the dome heads and the dillo are only effective when Thomas is stationary. When he's in motion, it's gonna be a lot harder for them to get on board. This is also true for the Herarosaurus, and Troodons, I don't think they stand a chance at all, because the firebox is gonna be glowing, so they hate light. They're not gonna go near Thomas. But all 3 versions of the raptors have a chance of attacking the crew even while Thomas is in motion. Each of these dinosaurs should be speedy enough to catch up to Thomas, or even just perfectly time a pounce to get inside. Pyroraptor might be the weakest in this scenario, as it is the smallest, and also having all those feathers means one wrong move and it could accidentally set itself on fire, becoming a literal Pyroraptor.
Say, something is burning around here.
One of the rare occasions where a non-feathered raptor can succeed more than a feathered one, as the Atrociraptors and Velociraptors don't have any loose attachments that can potentially catch fire. Not to mention, these 2 groups are guaranteed to work in packs, so they can use teamwork to dispatch whoever's inside. And considering how smart Red is specifically, she could potentially take over the train and drive it to wherever she wants. And I just realized I forgot the Pteranodons. Give them 1 point because, no, 2 points, because they can actually latch on and peck at anyone inside, even while Thomas is moving. But we've yet to see a single dinosaur that's strong enough to cause a derailment. But that might change when we get into... Now we're getting to the dinosaurs that can actually look at Thomas at eye level, and potentially deal some serious damage. And yet we're starting off with a dinosaur that gets 0 points, the Gallimimus. We've gotten to the point where the dinosaurs are just too big to actually enter the cab. Therefore, the Gallimimus won't even try to kill the crew because it's not gonna go in this cramped space. Not to mention, it's just gonna look at Thomas and think, oh my gosh, a giant fire-breathing predator, and run away. This cowardice is also what's going to dock some points for the Parasaurolophus and the Corythosaurus as well. A real-life para might be strong enough to derail Thomas, but Jurassic Park, not so much. The Ouranosaurus might be the only Hadrosaur-esque build that is aggressive enough to even try to attack Thomas. But, let's be honest, it's not going to be strong enough to actually cause any real damage. Wow, this tier is actually doing worse than the Deluxe class. What's going on? Don't worry, that's going to change as we introduce the Triceratops, the Ankylosaurus, and the Stegosaurus. These are probably the 3 best dinosaurs to cause some real damage to Thomas. A Kentrosaurus spike was enough to cause a plane to crash, so a Stegosaurus, which is a lot bigger and stronger than a Kentro, should have a Thagomizer that's strong enough to pierce Thomas's boiler, and has enough bulk to potentially cause a derailment. A derailment might be a bit harder while Thomas is in motion, but the other stuff it can definitely do. And I'm gonna apply this same logic to the Triceratops, and all like it. Although this is a lot more risky for the Ceratopsians, as they have to use their heads to cause this kind of damage, while the Stegosaurus can safely do this with its tail. And I realize I'm only making calculations from if the Triceratops charges from Thomas's side. If he actually comes at Thomas full force, like head-to-head, then I think both of them will lose. But I think Triceratops is our first dinosaur to reach 6 points. And you know who else gets 6 points? Ankylosaurus. A rock was enough to run Gordon dry, so the force of an Ankylosaurus club tail, especially one from Jurassic World, will basically knock Thomas over. Possibly. Maybe. I'm not sure how strong the Ankylosaurus' tail is. It's kind of inconsistent. You know what? I'm just gonna give in to my Ankylosaur bias and just give him full points. Quickfire round for the other Ceratopsians. Now, Zeutoceratops might struggle due to its much thinner horns. Sinoceratops might perform better than Triceratops due to its much thicker thicker horn, and Pachyrhinosaurus doesn't have a horn, but its head should be strong enough to cause a derailment, so I think we can give him 5 points. And as for the Kentrosaurus, I'm gonna have to give it 4 points, as I don't think it's strong enough to cause a derailment. Well, that's all the herbivores in this class, so what about the carnivores? Now, unfortunately, I don't think any of them are strong enough to cause a derailment, or everlasting damage to Thomas. Since these guys need to chase down prey, they're a lot more lightly built, and they just lack the power to actually knock Thomas over. However, these guys are the perfect size to just reach in and grab anyone inside Thomas's cab. The best suited for this job are the Baryonyx and the Suchomimus due to their elongated snouts, and the least effective is probably the Carnotaurus, as it's got the shortest snout and is probably going to struggle trying to eat anyone inside. While the efficiency of each dinosaur performing this task depends on the head shape of each dinosaur, I think they're all capable of eating the crew inside, even while he's in motion, granting them all 2 points. I guess a few of them could body slam Thomas, causing him to wobble, but remember, if Thomas is in motion while that's happening, that means he's gonna have a lot of boiling hot water inside of him. Coming into contact with the metal is gonna cause some serious burns to whatever dinosaur is trying to attack him, which is something the herbivores can avoid, as all of them have weapons that allow them to deal damage without direct contact, which is unfortunately why paras and galleys also cannot cause any more damage than they should, because, you know, they'll burn themselves. Hashtag buff the hadrosaurs. So as you can see, it's getting a little more dangerous for Thomas, but now it's going to get really dangerous because we have entered. This is the section where we cover our biggest and baddest theropods, with a few extras. Let's move on to the Quetzalcoatlus, who could, I'm just gonna say it right now, he can obliterate Thomas. You see what this thing can do to a plane? The thing will just land on top of Thomas, rip off the cab roof, and then devour the crew. And if he decides he wants to have some extra fun, he'll rip a hole in Thomas's boiler. Absolute obliteration, full 6 points. The Therizinosaurs might be able to pull off a similar outcome. Obviously, real-life Therizinosaurus claws are too delicate to actually be able to stab through metal, but this thing went through a whole giga, so I guess, like, metal should be no problem. Another 6 points for the Therizinosaurus. And another 6 points to the Mosasaurus. This thing could easily destroy a bridge that Thomas is traveling over and then watch him plunge into the depths. And considering he was able to eat a whole submarine, I don't think a tank engine's gonna fare much better. But now let's get into the megatheropods, like the T-Rex. The best case scenario for the T-Rex is if it manages to rip off the cab roof and then devour the crew inside. If there are 2 T-Rexes, they might even be able to work together to cause Thomas to derail. Therefore, I give them 5 points. You'd think I'd give a full 6 points to the Giga, since it's obviously bigger and stronger than the T-Rex in this universe, but we don't know its full top speed. Maybe Thomas might be able to outspeed it and it won't be able to catch up while he's in motion. But if Thomas was stationary, I don't think the Giga would have any problem crushing into the cab. So, since he can only do this while stationary, I'm gonna give the Giga 3 points. But keep in mind, these points could easily be doubled if the Giga is faster than we assume. We'll have to find out when Chaos Theory Season 4 comes out. And now we have the Spino, who just gets 6 points straight away. If you're strong enough to destroy a plane, I'm pretty sure you're strong enough to destroy a train. But as these dinosaurs are a lot bigger, we can now bring up another factor of defeating Thomas. Can these dinosaurs survive a head-on collision with Thomas the Tank Engine? I didn't talk about this in the previous sections because I knew they would all die a head collision with Thomas, with the Triceratops being the only exception, and maybe the Ankylosaurus. But with these dinosaurs being much bigger, some of them might actually be able to survive a hit. I mean, they'll suffer a critical injury, but the initial impact probably won't finish them right away. Obviously, the Quetzal's probably too frail to survive a hit, but what are the chances Thomas can even hit? It's just gonna fly away. And I'm honestly not that sure about the Therizinosaurus' durability either. Would it survive but then die later like a T-Rex or a Giga? Would it completely shake it off like the Spino? Probably not. I think it would be on par with the Tarbosaurus, where it seems like it could survive, but then really, it just dies. It also dies in one hit. And Mosasaurus is just out of the question. But the video doesn't end here, as we have 2 more classes to cover. And the next one is... This is where we talk about the hybrids. And the mutant, he's here too. Now, the Scorpius Rex can definitely get a few scratches in on Thomas, and even kill the crew while he's in motion. Unfortunately, he's just too frail to be able to cause any real damage, or be able to derail him, and one hit from Thomas and this thing is roadkill. Indoraptor is in a similar situation, but I think it's probably the best candidate to take out Thomas's crew. Able to latch on to Thomas with one hand and use the other hand to reach inside and grab the crew. And the Indominus Rex is probably probably strong enough to knock him off the tracks. Spinoceratops? It's probably about the same as the Sinoceratops I mentioned earlier. The mutant is gonna be tricky as I obviously haven't seen Rebirth yet, but I'm going to assume those knuckles are at least strong enough to warp the metal on Thomas, possibly even crushing him. And considering how big it is, it might actually be strong enough to stop Thomas in his tracks. A full-grown Indominus might also be able to achieve this, although it's a lot riskier for it, as it has much shorter hands compared to the T-Rex, which just has the biggest hands of any living creature I've ever seen. Oh, and if you want me to include the Jurassic World evolution hybrids, Spinoraptor does as well as the Baryonyx and Suchomimus did. Stegoceratops gets the benefits of the Triceratops and the Stegosaurus. And Ankylodocus is probably the first dinosaur on this list that can take a full-on hit from Thomas and still walk away. And with that club tail, it can easily knock him off the rails. Speaking of sauropods, this is a nice little segue to get into our final segment. One stomp from any of these dinosaurs, and Thomas will probably explode. The Brachiosaurus might burn its foot in the process, but he's gonna win. All the Fat Controller's horses and all the Fat Controller's men will not be able to put Thomas back together again. Even if Thomas was to charge into it, he'll hurt its leg, yes, but he'll also break himself in the process. I mean, I guess if he hits it hard enough, he can cause it to tumble over and die from the fall, but chances are it'll end up falling on top of him, so he's still dead. So we end off this competition by giving the Brachiosaurus and all the other sauropods its size 6 perfect points. And that's where the video concludes. Do you agree with everything I said, or do you think I missed out some key factors for certain species? And let me know if you think I ranked the performance of certain dinosaurs incorrectly. Whether I sold it as an overperformer or an underperformer. I mean, surely a compy has enough power in its pinky to be able to take out Thomas, right? Obviously, I didn't get to cover every single dinosaur in the franchise, but judging from what I said about the other species, you can just connect the dots. Let me know how you think a train chase in a Jurassic Park movie would turn out, and what dinosaurs would be in it. Either way, here's to 80 years of the Railway series. May your tracks lead you to even greater destinations. Goodbye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video from beginning to end. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and join the Zainreborn community. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.